All right, so let's start out. Let's start out with Voidzilla or Coffeezilla on his Voidzilla chat, because everybody gets mad at me in the comments. They're like, his name is Coffeezilla. His name isn't Voidzilla. I know that. So anyways, we're going to watch Coffeezilla on the Voidzilla channel talking about all the stuff that is just finding its way out into the open over this the client list. And yeah, let's let the man do his thing, and we'll have some stuff to talk about with this.
It's all coming out today. The Wall Street Journal not only released an article today, they're getting sued as well for this article about Donald Trump's connection to Jeffrey Epstein.
Did you guys see, of all people, Rupert Murdoch? Rupert Murdoch said, "Go ahead and sue me, bitch." How the fuck are we on the same team as Rupert Murdoch right now, guys? Someone answer that for me. How did that happen? How did we pick up Rupert Murdoch in free agency? Even Rupert Murdoch is like, nah, dude, it's real. Fucking see you in court, dog.
It's explosive. It's about a letter Trump sent to Epstein with supposedly a drawing of a naked woman by Trump, along with a little poem which talks about a wonderful secret that Jeffrey Epstein and Trump share. We will go through all the evidence because there's a lot to this. You are very silly if you jump to conclusions on a story this big with this wide of implications. Let's set the stage, because we're going to take our time going
Allegedly.
through this. The president's behavior during the run-up to this Epstein file leak has been absolutely strange.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring.
You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there, because there's a lot of phony stuff.
You know, these files were made up by Comey. They were made up by Obama.
Even his supporters are like, well, why is he acting this way?
Why are we releasing the grand jury information, which we're not? We know that, right? We know that there's not going to be like real grand jury information coming out, right? But if none of this stuff exists, then why was Epstein found guilty and given a sweetheart deal by Alexander Acosta back in, like, what was it, 2007? And then later found guilty in 2019 during Trump's administration before he took his own life. Why did Ghislaine Maxwell get put in jail? Like, if this is all just made up in a hoax and it doesn't exist, like, it is mind-boggling to me that any person can look at the amount of evidence, information that currently exists to say that not only did this really happen, but people went to jail over it. We've already seen people go to court for it. Like, how crazy brainwashed do you have to be like, yeah, he's right. It's just a hoax, guys. It's just a left-wing hoax. They're just trying to get us worked up about nothing.
It's so weird. All of a sudden it goes from the files exist to they don't exist to they're a hoax, actually, and there's a bunch of phony stuff in there.
If you're someone who cares about healthy eating and increasing the protein in your diet, listen up, because we have the ultimate protein.
Article, if true, explains a lot of the strange behavior. And we don't know if there's more that's going to come out, if this is all there is, but I'm going to go through the main allegation, and I will call it an allegation.
Wait,
because Trump is definitely going to sue over this. He's already said as much. So here's basically the story. Supposedly, Ghislaine Maxwell collected letters from Trump and dozens of Epstein's associates for a 2003 birthday album. It was for his 50th birthday. Pages from the leather-bound album, assembled before Epstein was first arrested, are among the documents examined by the Department of Justice officials. So there are birthday letters to Epstein that supposedly have been seen by the DOJ. They have them in their files. And the one from Trump supposedly has a naked woman, which appears to be hand-drawn with a heavy marker.
What was it? Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer came out and she was like, I know that this isn't from Trump. Everybody knows that he uses a Sharpie. I was like, are you trying to make the case that he's the one that drew the picture? It was drawn with a marker. Does Laura Loomer know what a Sharpie is?
And the future president's signature is a squiggly Donald below her waist. The Wall Street Journal goes on to say it's not clear how the letter with Trump's signature was prepared. Inside the outline of the naked woman was a typewritten note styled as an imaginary conversation between Trump and Epstein.
Yeah, and if you want to be if you want to be a private investigator on this, you're probably guessing that the notations, the voiceover is probably not from Trump, right? Because it's Ghislaine Maxwell is putting together this this book for his birthday, so she probably did write some stuff in that. This part right here that he's about to go over, the voiceover, is not the part that everybody is saying is concerning, right? Like, this is just a written, whatever prelogue or preface to his drawing, or the alleged drawing, and then the signing from a guy who says that he was never really that good of friends with Epstein, right? Like, that's the important part, because obviously this is it was like a book of poems, but for pedos.
It's over. There's more to life than having everything. Donald, yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey, nor will I, since I also know what it is.
But we all know, too, that this was probably just a conversation that she dictated, right? Enigmas? Oh, that was really close to. That was almost a very faux pas. A white man with a beard has got to be very careful with the word enigma. That shit's going on the internet. Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? What a fucking weird thing to put in this.
Donald, we have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Yes, we do, come to think of it. Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? As a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. And the final line is, a pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. Obviously, that is an insane thing to write to what later would be found out to be one of the world's most prolific but there's also two lines in there which are horrendous. One, enigmas never age. That's just a strange line.
Thank you to Coffeezilla, and thank you to try plugging it in. What I'm just saying, enigma is a very weird word to use, and you can just see Donald Trump right now. Enigma. This is how we get him, guys. This is how we get Trump. Somebody tell him the word enigma. Enigma. Not a lot of people know that word. It's an old-timey word, like many words. It's said like a word. Enigma. A lot of people, they don't know that. They don't know the word. I was the first one to use it. Enigma. Like, it's such a strange word to use.
It's a very incriminating sounding line. We don't know what it means exactly.
Kevin.
And then also we see, may every day be another wonderful secret. Of course, this all written inside the outline of a naked woman kind of tells you what secret they may be talking about there. Now we're going to go over Trump's response, and then, of course, all the evidence, all the denials, what you may want to know before making up your mind. Like I said, this is not a story where you're going to want to snap to judgment. Even now, I think there's still a lot we need to see.
The E word.
But I want to go over Trump's response. He gave an interview with the Journal on Tuesday evening, and he denied writing the letter or drawing the picture. Quote, "This is not me. This is a fake thing. It's a fake Wall Street Journal story. I never wrote a picture in my life. I don't draw pictures of women," he said. "It's not my language. It's not my words."
And that's the one thing I have to say about it is, it does seem like it's some type of dictation, right? Dictation, you know what I'm saying? From a dictator. It seems like it's some type of dictation. And so it's like, what is the possibility that this is a conversation that Epstein had with Trump that Ghislaine Maxwell remembers? And that's a dictated, and he had, possibly sent this picture because it does seem to have his signature on it as well.
Told the Journal he was preparing to file a lawsuit if it published the article. "I'm going to sue the Wall Street Journal just like I sued everyone else." What do we make of this? Before we jump into the evidence, before we jump into all the reactions, both public and of the people involved, let's just talk about what this could mean. The denial puts Trump in a very particular position, because if it later comes out and turns out to be true, it's worth saying the Wall Street Journal did not publish a photo of the letter. which everyone's been asking for. There are a lot of reasons not to publish it. Maybe your source didn't allow it, but that's a huge part that could come out that changes the whole landscape of this, right? If it comes out, it's very devastating because you wouldn't lie about something like this if you thought it was no big deal, right?
Exactly. So that's another good question, actually, from Coffeezilla there, is if this is proved to be true, will MAGA be able to connect the dots? They won't. That's a rhetorical question. Be able to connect the dots that you wouldn't want to lie about something so small being sent to Epstein. You would just say probably the best, if this is a real letter that was sent from Trump, or the picture is real, whatever is real, right? If it was really sent from Trump to Epstein, the smartest thing that you could do is, if you were Trump, you would say, yeah, like, people ask me for birthday wishes for, people I've dealt with before. So, lots of people probably have, a signed picture from me. Like, when he said he doesn't write pictures, which is just such a strange way to say this, but when he said, when I don't write pictures, Gavin Newsom almost posted immediately a picture that he had from somebody that does work for charity, where they asked Trump to draw a picture and sign it, and then they sold it. So that does exist. We've seen that. That does 100% exist. And I believe they said that there are also 4 total pictures from Trump that are signed. So it's just like to me, it seems like a really... He is falling apart. He is obviously experiencing cognitive decline. But generally, this would be the point where somebody like Trump would say something along the lines of, like, yeah, I send pictures to everybody. I like to send pictures. Mostly texts to women.
Denial actually implies a lot of bad things about what the letter could mean. If you weren't worried about a story like this, if you thought the letter was nothing, you wouldn't deny it. You would just give no comment. You certainly wouldn't give an interview. So now we're going to talk about the reactions of the people involved, because it's worth saying Trump is not the only letter mentioned in here. And I think that's really important, because in a story like this, you want to look to what could be.
Yeah, because this is a book. So that's a good point. So you don't want to concentrate so much just on Trump here, because you want to prove the evidence around the letter as well. So if you can get people that also were a part of this compilation, then you can start by proving that the book existed in the first place.
Corroborating evidence. So Alan Dershowitz is cited in the piece having written a letter that included a mock-up of a Vanity
Venture. I didn't make that connection. That's actually pretty good. Oh, great. Like the Hitler paintings. Do all dictators like to paint? I'm going to start looking at my artist friends a little bit differently nowadays. Is this a tell for authoritarianism? Is there some kind of link between art and authoritarianism?
Fair magazine with mock headlines of who was Jack the Ripper? Was it Jeffrey Epstein? Alan, a former lawyer for Epstein, does not deny this. He says, it's been a long time, and I don't recall the content of what I may have written. Why is Dershowitz always involved? Had a letter in there. He declined to comment. Supposedly, his letter was, I wanted to get you what you want, so here it is. After the text was a line drawing of what appeared to be a woman's breast. And then we have a former assistant who was not cited, who sent Jeffrey a letter. Oh, Jeffrey of Jeffrey, everyone loves you. Fun in the sun. Fun just for fun. Pretty innocuous. And then, of course, we have Donald Trump, who denies,
I don't know that man.
Of course, the whole thing. So we have some non-denials, some people who just didn't respond, and then we have Trump. Trump's the only one who's firmly denying this letter so far, with him doubling down on Truth Social, saying, it's not my words, it's not the way I talk. Also, I don't draw pictures. I told Rupert Murdoch it was a scam and he shouldn't print this fake story, but he did, and now I'm going to sue him.
And that's another strange thing to say, because he's saying that he talked to Rupert Murdoch, and there's another tweet from him where he says, like, Rupert Murdoch said he had it handled. And then Rupert Murdoch's response to it, because Trump said, well, obviously he can't handle his own newspaper because he didn't stop them from doing it. It doesn't sound like Rupert Murdoch even, like, tried to stop it. It sounds like he's, like, 10 toes down on this. Sounds like he got to see the picture, because he's sitting here going like, no, sue me, motherfucker. I'll see you in court.
in his third-rate newspaper. Now, a couple comments quick on that. One, the Wall Street Journal is not a third-rate newspaper. It's also not a super left-leaning newspaper. Not that that should matter in journalism, but I know people's media literacy, that stuff kind of does kind of tip off their signals. It's unlikely they're going to publish something they know they're going to get sued for.
Yeah, this isn't CNN. It's not MSNBC. That's another thing about this whole story that just doesn't make sense. Is that it's Rupert Murdoch. It's a right-wing, not hard right-wing, but like a right-of-center newspaper. It's like, it doesn't make any sense for them to attack a conservative candidate unless they think that it's real. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. Oh, thank you for the 10 memberships. Just trying to plug in. Thank you so much for the 10 memberships. Congrats to everybody that got one. Yeah, exactly. What the hell? It's a right-leaning, center-right, right?
For unless they have something. And so here's where I want to talk about a little bit of the circumstantial stuff. So
I've got to update a certain add-on.
With Wix. Trump obviously states, I don't draw pictures, but turns out that's kind of not true. So in a book called Never Give Up, Trump wrote, each year I donate an autographed doodle to the Doodle for Hunger auction at Tavern on the Green. It's a great event. And sure enough, publicly you can find several doodles
That's a really bad drawing.
Has done. Most of these are of skylines, architecture. None of these are of women. Still, it's strange to say I don't draw pictures.
Yeah, Trump's main defense here. Trump's main defense is I've called my daughter hot. I've had many wives that I've cheated on. I've slept with a porn star, but I don't draw women. Just buildings. I just like to draw buildings. That's going to be a strange defense in court.
When you very clearly draw pictures and they appear to be in thick marker, which is what you were accused of drawing them in. Now, none of that means anything, but it just reminds me a little bit of the Prince Andrew denial.
Dude,
I don't know if you guys remember
why is that man so sweaty?
Denial, a big part of...
Yeah, well, hold on. Why is he so sweaty, bro? Holy shit. Somebody get this man a fucking dry fit shirt. Jesus Christ.
Andrew denial. I don't know if you guys remember the sweat denial. A big part of the interview with Prince Andrew was the denial that he couldn't have done anything bad because he couldn't sweat. So this supposedly falsified Virginia Giuffre's whole story.
Obviously.
I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time.
So yeah.
Wait. I've never seen this. Dude, the defenses that they use are just fucking insane that anybody believes this shit. What the fuck? Bro said, I have a peculiar medical condition where I don't sweat. I mean, I used to not sweat. Who was sitting there with this dude that was like, so this is what we're going to do, Prince Andrew. What we're going to tell people is that you used to have a medical condition where you couldn't sweat, so therefore that couldn't be your goofy looking ass in that picture with all that sweat up all on you, because if it was you wouldn't have sweated. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, oh, fucking dope. That's a good defense. I'm going with that. Whoever gave him that defense, I hope that motherfucker was fired.
Yeah, that was kind of this claim, like, hey, this couldn't be true because I don't do X, but actually we...
Okay, good job. Actually, it might have been baby oil. That does look like Coke, mountain bike. That smile and those eyeballs definitely say cocaine. Maybe the cocaine fixed his sweating problem. Maybe that was the cure for the sweating problem. Ross Carson, what's happening? Ross, thank you so much for your donation to my PayPal. I appreciate you so much. I saw that today. Thank you so much, Ross.
See that Prince Andrew actually does sweat.
Does
and
indeed
in the same
sweat.
way, it's not perfect proof, but you really shouldn't say you don't draw pictures when being accused of drawing thick black marker pictures when you definitely draw pictures sometimes. I mean, it's just, and it's public. I mean, that's just kind of...
But it doesn't matter with MAGA. They don't care. They don't care. They're just like, they'll never see any of this. It's so fucking mind-boggling.
Just an obvious, devastating hole in your whole argument. Now, again, I've got to say, like, this is just the basics. We do not have the letter, okay? I'm relying on the Wall Street Journal's reporting on this.
Understandable.
And we're corroborating with different pieces of public evidence. Ultimately, we need to see if...
Perry said, Prince Andrew is a sweaty nonce was being written and painted on walls all over the UK when he said that. No shit. Oh my God. Oh, Ross Carson, you didn't author. Maybe that was a different Ross. Maybe I'm shouting out the wrong Ross. I should probably go look at that. I'll go check that afterwards. That might be a scam.
If this was actually in the Epstein files. But there are some other stuff too that we can look to corroborate this story. So we can look at the Bookbinder. So in the Wall Street Journal report, we see a very specific and interesting corroboration. It says the book was put together by the New York City bookbinder Herbert Weitz, according to people involved with the process. Weitz listed Epstein as a client on his website in 2003. So
hold on, so can't we just go see if, like, isn't there a way to just see if they printed the book? Wouldn't that just make sense? Hold on, Coffeezilla's getting to it.
Here we have a chance to corroborate externally. Of course, it's not a full corroboration, but we have a chance to look.
Yeah, look at it, Ross.
Was it actually on his website, right? So if we go to the archive,
I just looked at the email. I didn't actually look and see if anything was actually in my
client
PayPal.
list, and we see Jeffrey Epstein is listed on it with a different spelling of Jeffrey.
I did think it was weird.
No, and this says people for whom we have bound up books and albums. This is another piece of circumstantial evidence that makes it hard to believe it's just fully made up. Now, you can believe something in the middle. You can believe that the letter exists, and
it was probably a different Ross.
The Wall Street Journal saw it, and somebody invented it, right? Like, there are a lot of options here. But the idea that, okay, the Wall Street Journal is just fully inventing this story. They're releasing something with literally no evidence. They're just fabricating it all.
Yeah, that doesn't sound
real. But citing all these different people, citing third-party stuff that you can fact-check publicly, that's a piece of evidence to think about. Now, we're going to talk about the public reactions to this. We have Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, saying the Wall Street Journal published a hatchet job with a fake birthday letter that's supposedly from 2003.
Yeah, but the problem with any of these people defending anything, whether it's Caroline Leavitt or it's MTG or it's Laura Loomer or it's Tim Pool or Charlie Kirk, is that lying is like their first defense. Actually, I'm sorry, denying is their first defense. Lying comes second. It's deny, lie. Sometimes they flip that. Lie, then deny. But it's like, you can't take anything any of these people say as being true. Like, at no point can you take anything that any of these guys say as the truth. You have to, like, everything they say, you have to, at the least, believe that it's in some way been manipulated or exaggerated or they're being hyperbolic or they're just straight up denying it. And that's what I was saying about the Obama thing, is that, like, I actually do want to be in a society where when somebody says, hey, we found these things on Obama, that regardless of whether or not I'm on the left or the right, that I want to be able to go and look at that thing and say, oh, it looks as though they found something important that people should be concerned about. But just like what just happened with Tulsi Gabbard and Obama, you go and you actually look at the stuff that they put out and you go, there's nothing here. This is weird. Why are people falling for this? And the other side of it is that when you have somebody like Caroline Leavitt that comes out and says, there's no such thing, this didn't happen, so many times when they say it didn't happen, it did happen. I just want to get back to a point in society where people say things and then present evidence, and then that evidence leads to some type of, punishment or repercussion.
This is like the Steele dossier that kickstarted the Russia hoax all over again. The Wall Street Journal refused to show us the letter and conceded they don't even have it in their possession when we asked them to verify the alleged document they're basing their entire fake story on. Then you have Dan Walken saying the amount of people who think publications, the scope of the Wall Street Journal, just put explosive stuff out about a public figure without well-established authentication procedures and running it through a team of lawyers know literally nothing about journalism. Charlie Kirk says this is not how Trump talks at all. I don't believe it, referring to the actual letter's contents.
And like I said, I don't think he wrote that part. It does sound like a dictation. It sounds like somebody, I keep saying dictation, like dictation because of that. It sounds like somebody wrote down a conversation, most likely Maxwell, that was like important to Epstein or Trump, and she probably remembered it as such and wrote it down in that way to put it in the book as a special memory, a secret memory.
Specifically, people picked up on the idea that Trump says enigma in the writing of it. In fact, Trump writing at all, some people find that hard to believe. J.D. Vance says, forgive my language, but this story is complete and utter bull. The Wall Street Journal should be ashamed of publishing it. Where's the letter? Would you be shocked to learn they never showed it to us before publishing it? Does anyone honestly believe this sounds like
they got him.
Of course, then you have a response to that.
Oh, no, they got him.
Where somebody says, Carson's an enigma to me. This is clearly debunking the idea that the word enigma is not in Trump's vocabulary.
Now, Carson's an enigma to me.
So that clearly debunks the idea that he couldn't have written.
Dude, there's always evidence. I'm telling you, it's so fucking weird to live in this reality. Like, these people say shit about Obama. There's nothing on the dude. They say shit about Trump, and there's literal fucking video evidence of him saying the word. It's fucking insane. There's always evidence with Trump. He's the worst criminal in history. Well, I guess he's not the worst criminal because, obviously, he's got 34 felonies, convicted of 34 felonies, and he's currently in charge of the country. So I guess he's not the worst criminal. Maybe the best criminal. Maybe the best criminal, actually. Jesus Christ.
This because enigma wasn't in his vocabulary. It actually is. So from where I'm sitting, the letter is odd, but it also is in line with some of these other letters from people like Lex Wexner. It's also in line with some of the doodles that Trump has publicly made. And it is also in line with Trump's recent odd behavior with the Epstein files, where he keeps setting up the idea that there's this big hoax coming, that there's phony stuff in there. And that actually is the most persuasive piece of evidence, Trump's own behavior in this weird meltdown, more than anything which has convinced.
Solid. I don't know if this is his take, but is Coffeezilla trying to say there's a potential that somebody set the Wall Street Journal up to do this? Oh, I'm becoming a conspiracy theorist. What if, because it's weird that Rupert Murdoch published this, right? I said that. They're a center-right leaning newspaper, and Rupert Murdoch is friends with Donald Trump. What if this was set up to be where Rupert Murdoch publishes the newspaper article, Trump sues him for defamation, which leads to Donald Trump being able to defeat in court Rupert Murdoch, proving that that was a hoax, therefore making his cult believe that everything else involved was a hoax. That's a possibility. That's a possibility. Nothing's off the table in this dumbass reality.
It's me because on the one hand, there are some things which would tilt in the favor.
Brando said the same thing. This is a possibility. It's a possibility because they know with the dearth of evidence that's coming out at this point, if you were to just put in one thing that ended up being fake, that's all Trump supporters need, right? All they need is just one thing to latch onto. This does seem sus. Now, Coffeezilla, I think, has definitely convinced me that some of this could be very sus.
Of it not being Trump, right? The very fact that it's a letter. The prose of the letter is a bit strange. And then you also have the fact that, okay, if the DOJ had this during the Biden years, why didn't it come out, right? So that's all pretty compelling until you once again just look at the way Trump has been behaving. I think it strongly suggests that Trump saw something in the Epstein files, was debriefed on something that he was worried about. Whether it was this letter or something else, I don't know. But clearly there's something in those files that he was concerned about.
I don't think it's a letter. Even if that is a real letter, I don't think that's what is causing Trump to act the way he is. I think Trump knows that there's just way too much evidence that he was connected to Epstein through those files. Even if there isn't like video evidence, even if there isn't like, like strong evidence that he did anything, he said it over and over again. He keeps saying like, there's just too much information in the files that could get somebody in trouble that didn't have anything to do with it. And a lot of the times he just tells people what he's thinking. So, I don't think that it's specifically that letter, if that letter does exist, because now I'm starting to question whether or not that's a real thing. But it's obvious that Trump, there's enough dots that connect Trump to Epstein that anybody with even 2 brain cells left is going to look at the amount of times that Trump is connected to Epstein, and they're going to go like, well, hold on, like you had to have known something.
Being involved with. I think we need a full declassification of these files, except for the CSAM.
Full declassification.
Now,
things all dads secretly want but would never actually ask for. Part 3. This
God damn
guy.
it.
Most electric.
To the declassifying comment, Donald Trump, based on this, has posted, based on the ridiculous amount of publicity given to Jeffrey Epstein, I have asked AG Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval. This scam should end.
See, any and all pertinent grand jury testimony. In other words, he's not saying that they're going to completely declassify and show all of the grand jury testimony, only the grand jury testimony that doesn't link to him. That's what he's saying when he says that.
Right now. And Pam Bondi has said, President Trump, we are ready to move on the court tomorrow to unseal the grand jury transcripts. I think that ultimately it needs to be everything or nothing. You can't give a little bit at this point.
It has to be
with
everything.
The level of allegations being leveled against our president that he would send.
But that's me and Coffeezilla saying that it has to be everything for it to convince us, right? That's not what it takes to convince MAGA. MAGA, all they need is just one whiff of something not being real, and they go full board back to being on Trump's side on this.
Pretty incriminating letters to
exactly.
the
That's
world's
what I'm saying.
most
Try plugging it in.
notorious pedophile. Now, again, before he was arrested the first time, right? But given the letter's contents, given that they're doing so much, they're going to be suing the Wall Street Journal over this, to deny it, I think if it turns out to be true, is devastating. I mean, totally devastating and horrific, and no one should defend it if it's true. And that's what we need to find out at this point. So I think the answer is clearly that, yes, I would love the Wall Street Journal to release this photo if they have it in their possession, if they can release it from their source. And I would love for the DOJ to declassify the actual relevant pieces of this whole thing, because the
grand jury stuff is just a small fraction of the files. Yeah, I know. Obviously, to see all of the files is really what it would take for anybody to believe anything. I mean, like I said, at this point, there's just really, in my opinion, no way you're going to convince me that Trump isn't in those files. I mean, you can't have pictures, videos, fucking just like so much evidence, behaviors, the weird way that he's behaved since all this stuff came out. Like, it's just too much. Like, there's absolutely no way. In my opinion, he's 100% connected in some way to all of this stuff, and that's not even a question. When you're talking about the grand jury stuff, the grand jury testimony, once again, the concern there is that he's only going to they're going to cherry pick possibly stuff about other people, whether they're right wing or not, doesn't matter, that they can use as some type of distraction to say, hey, look, you guys wanted something, so I gave it to you. The grand jury testimony is always under seal. This is bullshit. The judge will shut it down when Trump will blame. That's another good point, Jen. That's a good point. Another way of saying we tried to get it out, but they wouldn't let us. Yep. Mama Brooke says, I will give MAGA credit. Over on True Social, they were up in arms about the wording. Trump used grand jury testimony, not a list. you know, I do think that some of these people are pretty pissed off about this, you know? It does seem like some of the cult members are like, hold on, the only reason I joined the cult was to get the files.
The central piece of evidence in this whole story
I was
are
told
these
there would be
letters,
cake.
which are in a leather-bound album and supposedly in the DOJ's possession. That's clearly not going to be...
Ah, that's a good call too, Perry. Perry says maybe this is a warning from Murdoch that him and the powerful people he is protecting have dirt on him. Be careful who he uses to distract. That's another good point. That's another good point. I saw the Charlie Kirk comment column, Golf, of all the people calling him out for saying he wasn't going to talk about it anymore. Yeah, this is, you know, on the surface, this birthday page thing seems kind of like, you know, not all that important. But the more that you think about it, the more it seems as though there's a lot more to this than just a page that was written and sent. But maybe that's all it is. Maybe that's all it is. Maybe we're making too much of
transcript. That's going to be one of the pieces of evidence they collected from Epstein or Maxwell. And so that is a different category altogether. So I think given that, it's hard to see this as anything other than a distraction from what is actually relevant here, which is, does this album exist? Yes or no? Show us the evidence, right? Show us the physical evidence. Instead, this is just going to get people riled up because it's an Epstein release, but it's guaranteed by definition not to have the evidence one way or another.
Yeah.
A transcript is not going to have a piece of physical evidence. And we need to demand answers on that because either it exists or it doesn't. And if it does exist...
Alan says, it blows my mind that Trump's approval rating went up with Republicans since the Epstein stuff. Like I said, it doesn't blow my mind anymore. It does not blow my mind anymore. Like, seeing stuff like this, even though it seems like, I'm like, that's fucking dumb. Like, that they would, his approval rating would go up with Republicans over this. At the same time, like, it doesn't blow my mind anymore. I'm like, yeah, I guess that's just par for the course, right? Like, they think of Trump as being a bad boy. A bad boy. Well, this bad boy potentially did the one thing that you claim that all the other people that you hate do, harming children. Like, that's what's alleged here. And then you're like, yeah, I like him more now. So that says a lot about Republicans. A lot.
That's a huge problem. If it doesn't, for the Wall Street Journal, that's a huge problem. And I'm really not sure which we are going to get first. All I know is that if you are looking from the outside, I would highly recommend that you don't just dismiss.
The real question here is, why didn't the guy from the Inquirer buy that story and kill it? maybe he learned his lesson with the Stormy Daniels case.
Things based on a quick, hot Twitter take. There's a lot to this story that is corroborating, and also we need more evidence on before we can really make up their mind. I see a lot of people have just already written it off as completely true or completely false. I think they're not thinking through the implications of, if this is true, how really crazy it would be if we live in that world. And then also the people who are dismissing it as false right away, not really thinking through, like, you might be defending a right?
Yep.
That is one of the outcomes that could be true here. We don't know. And again, even if it is true, we don't know what is meant by things like, may every day be another wonderful secret. When calling Jeffrey Epstein a pal, we wouldn't know what that meant. But yeah, it's just stunning. So this report, you absolutely have to watch it. We're going to have a lot more in the coming days to try to validate it or falsify it. And we'll see which one happens first. And yeah, that's pretty much all I'm prepared to say at this moment.
Wow, that is pretty weird. That is pretty weird. The thing about that, too, is that it could just be, I mean, a defamation trial could take fucking forever, right? So he could just be killing it by even saying that he's going to take them to trial and sue them, because a defamation trial could take years. So he could just be saying it's not real and that he's suing them, and that's enough for MAGA to look at it and say it's not real, right? Like, I mean, come on. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, and check out that video on the screen now.